County. Lakini kabla ya hapo, tume ya kutetea haki za kibinadamu nchini KNCHR inafanya kikao na wanahabari asubuhi ya leo. Hebu tusikize wanasemaje.
That Article 49 provides rights of an arrested person, which include the right to be informed promptly in a language they understand of the reason for the arrest, the right to remain silent, the consequences of not remaining silent, and the right to communicate with an advocate and other person whose assistance is necessary. The National Police Service is mandated to maintain law and order while observing and respecting constitutional provisions. Breaking into homes, as was seen in Kisumu and other places, and affecting improper arrests while dispensing brutality and torture infringes upon the rights of citizens and violates their dignity and sanctity of their private spaces. The Commission calls on the police and other security agents to conduct arrests in a lawful and respectful manner, adhering to established procedures and respecting the rights and dignity of individuals. Respect for judiciary presence and dispersal of citizens. The judiciary is an arm of government and an independent institution in Kenya, and its presence must be respected as spaces for the administration of justice. Reports and recorded cases of security agents violently dispersing citizens and journalists within court premises violates the principles of separation of powers and undermines the rule of law. The Commission urges the government to ensure the protection of the judicial spaces and uphold the independence of that judiciary, allowing citizens and journalists to exercise their right to freedom of expression and access to information without fear of intimidation or reprisals. The infringement also affected lawyers and families of the arrested, thus infringing the right to access legal support and access justice. Allegations of abductions. The Commission has received reports of alleged abductions by persons believed to be police officers in the recent past. These events are worrying as the reminders of our dark past, where the security agencies had special squads that would effect such extrajudicial activities. Such practices violate fundamental human rights and erode trust between the police, the state, and its citizens. These incidences must be investigated transparently and impartially, and those found accountable be held responsible, and any individual found involved in those egregious actions should be brought to book. Assaults and arbitrary arrest of human rights defenders. The Commission has observed increased assaults and arbitrary arrests of human rights defenders who are striving to ensure respect for human rights principles. These defenders play a critical role in promoting accountability and safeguarding citizens' rights, and their safety and protection must be guaranteed. Harassment and injuries of special interest groups and the vulnerable. Special interest groups and vulnerable populations, including women, children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities, must be protected from violence and harassment at all times. Articles 53, 54, and 57 provide for protection and preservation of the special interest groups' rights. It was disheartening to see tear gas lobbed into schools and homes. It was also disheartening to see an old lady being beaten up by a policeman, mothers with babies running out of their houses after their residences were tear gassed, and especially a woman in a wheelchair being beaten up by a policeman. The Commission is also greatly concerned by reports of numerous violations against particularly children. It is unfortunate that children, despite their innocence, continue to face the brunt of the violence. Cases of arbitrary arrests and alleged torture against children have been reported with some children being held at the industrial area remand prison. This is unacceptable. Law enforcement agencies and the justice system must protect our children. No child shall be arbitrarily arrested, detained with adults, or tortured. This must end. The Commission is also concerned about reports that there are several people who are nursing injuries at home for fear of arrest should they seek medication. The right to emergency medical treatment is enshrined in Article 43(2), and we urge all medical personnel to accord medical treatment to the injured while observing the principles of confidentiality. In light of the current state of affairs in our country, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights urgently calls on all parties involved in the ongoing demonstrations to avoid the grandstanding and to have structured engagement and uphold the rule of law and respect for human rights. The Commission further recommends as follows. 1. Urgent investigations and prosecution of perpetrators of torture and other human rights violations must be prioritized to ensure accountability and justice for the victims and their families. Authorities must expedite the resolution of court cases related to this and ensure access to justice for all citizens who have been arrested and detained. Security agencies must conduct arrests and dispersal operations in a lawful and respectful manner, adhering to constitutional principles, established procedures, and respecting the rights and dignity of individuals and their private spaces. The government should guarantee the protection and independence of the judiciary, ensuring citizens and journalists can exercise their right to freedom of expression and access to information without fear of intimidation or reprisals at the court presence. Thorough and transparent investigations must be conducted into allegations of abductions and infiltration by security agents in media circles for the purpose of arresting demonstrators. Human rights defenders and members of civil service society organizations should be protected from assaults and arbitrary arrests, as they play a crucial role in promoting accountability and safeguarding citizens' rights. And finally, special interest groups and vulnerable populations must be protected from violence and harassment during demonstrations, ensuring their rights to equality and freedom from discrimination are upheld. As the country navigates these challenging times, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights reiterates the duty and responsibility of all to safeguard human rights and fundamental freedoms in Kenya. The Commission calls on all Kenyan citizens, government institutions, civil society organizations, and the media to work together in fostering a climate of respect for human rights, structured engagements, and peaceful coexistence. The Commission remains engaged in the investigation and accountability of these human rights violations and abuses. In the discharge of its constitutive mandate, the Commission is taking appropriate steps to redress the violations without fear or faltering. Lest we forget, human rights are inherent, interdependent, indivisible, and universal. Human rights cannot be suspended, nor are they optional. They must be observed by all people and institutions in all places at all times.
Naam, ni mwenyekiti wa Tume ya Kitaifa ya Kutetea Haki za Binadamu